If I send him to California, have I just enabled a deadbeat dad? So I've recently been trying to help a homeless family and ultimately end up trying to help the man of the family. It seemed to fail spectacularly. I encountered them leaving the gym, and his family claimed that their car had been towed. And so long story short, that I took them across the road and fed them and dropped them off at their budget hotel and handed him $50. Swell guy, right? I encountered the man the next day and figured that God had brought us together, so we picked up where we left off, and at this point the man had said that he was out of the picture with regards to his lady and his son, that they were staying at her mother's house and he was really no longer welcome. The story was that he needed to get back to his home roots, like in San Diego, where he could get support there and start making a life and then make a comeback and support his child. And he actually mentioned that he had another child by another woman. This man was only like 23 or something. He was born in 1997, I later found out. And anyway, miraculously, we found super cheap one-way tickets on the internet to fly him to San Diego, and the plan was that I would meet him today at noon at this local restaurant and drive him 2.5 hours to the airport in Charlotte and send him back on his way. Prior to that, I paid for his Fleabag motel last night so he'd have a place to sleep, and at noon today, surprise, surprise, he was not there. I went to the restaurant, asked about him, and the waitress said, yeah, he'd been there. He was eating and asking people how he could get to a bus station in order to get across the country, and asking for programs that help homeless people. At this point, I'm thinking, this guy is stupid, or is he on drugs? He watched me buy his airplane ticket yesterday, and I dropped him off and looked him in the eye and said, we leave here at noon tomorrow. This was after going to his Fleabag motel and paying for one more night for him to stay there. So I drove around 2 hours today looking for this guy, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and naturally wanting to, make the money I'd spent worthwhile by finding him, and driving 2 more hours to put his ass on a plane. So after 2 hours and 20 minutes looking for him today, I decided to cut my losses. I canceled the ticket, which I might as well have not, because they double charged me on the ticket to begin with, and then the cancellation fee was almost as much as the ticket itself. It was just a lot, and I don't want to go into all the accounting. But as soon as I canceled the ticket, the guy calls me. By the way, he said he didn't have a phone, so he called me from some strange number, and I'd given him my number yesterday. He says to me, I believe I have a solution for our problem. And he started to tell me about the bus station, and I don't think I screamed at him, but I was pretty excited when I said, dude, you watched me buy your ticket yesterday. We were supposed to meet at McAdoo's at noon. Where were you? Because he was obviously there before noon. Anyway, I'm not going to cover exactly what he said and what I said, and he basically mumbled these weird lies and excuses like, I didn't see you there, so I didn't think you were going to show up, which is absolutely ridiculous. If I was in his shoes, I'd be grasping at such an unbelievable opportunity. Yet he was there early and actually left. It's complete self-sabotage. Out of all the strangers he had spoken with, who else was putting relatively large sums of money in his hand, buying his family food, buying him food later, putting him up at a motel, and buying him an airplane ticket? All he had to do was show up at noon, which he had. He ate lunch early, which was kind of expensive for a homeless guy, quite frankly. The waitress told me so, and he didn't deny it. So I'm riddled with all these questions of why people self-sabotage and what is the lesson in all of this. And in the end, I'm really disappointed in him, and I really struggled with this thought. If I send him to California, have I just enabled a deadbeat dad? Because his kid is still here in Virginia. His lady is here. Under what circumstances they still operate, I don't know. But they were together the day before yesterday. But maybe he was meant to stay here and get his shit together in close proximity to his son. But the disappointment I feel in having done so much for him, and he self-sabotaged, no doubt about it, our meeting today, it makes me wonder if God oftentimes is disappointed in us. Humans overall, He is far more forgiving than we are, and the misfortunes and setbacks we sometimes experience today become blessings in the future. Think about how much He gives us, and how thankful are we truly? He gives us these bodies, and here we are smoking packs of cigarettes every day, doing a bunch of drugs, eating too much, being lazy to the point of whatever that word is where you can't move your muscles. If it weren't for the Gandhis and the Martin Luther Kings and the Florence Nightingales and the Mother Teresas of this world, we really We really need more of those folks to represent us because so many of us are just so selfish. And as I say that, strike that. We need to step up and become these great people because we keep acting like we're waiting on them to arrive and save us. We need to actually become them. And I'm not going to lie, I'm in a funk right now, and I really let this bother me. He's not the first homeless person that I've personally tried to help. It's absolutely astonishing how many homeless people will turn down actual food and water. Yes, I've actually presented a bottle of water to a homeless man, and he said, "No, thank you. I'm a soda man myself." Are you kidding me? You are homeless and you have no need for water? Am I hearing you correctly? Dude was walking down the road without shoes, for crying out loud. So I feel like a lot of people, I feel like a lot of us either have no answer for homeless people, or we choose to ignore it, or the answers we think we have are broad brush strokes of stupidity, like, let's just send them all somewhere. Some people have done the math and claim it's cheaper just to give them free houses. It's just so complicated, especially when they self-sabotage and don't accept blessings or opportunities laid right in their lap. But then I turn around and look at how God must feel about us squandering blessings and opportunities. He lays right in our laps, and we squander them. Maybe that lesson I told myself during this ordeal, that God was testing me and blessing him through me as he was testing me. And I probably failed because I yelled at the guy. My last words to him were, "You were supposed to meet me at noon at McAdoo's. How is that so fucking complicated?" And Maurice, to his credit, he never raised his voice. He never uttered a curse word. He just quietly hung up. And I keep wondering what would have happened if I would have just waited a little longer before canceling that airline ticket for him, or if I wouldn't have yelled at him. And so right now, while I'm making this video, perhaps we'd be riding right down the road to Charlotte, and he'd be stepping onto an airplane and starting a whole new, fresh life. I don't know. There's lots of success stories, these household names that folks that claim to have been homeless at some point in their lives. I mean, ranging from Halle Berry to Jennifer Lopez, Sylvester Stallone, Steve Harvey, Tyler Perry, even old Daniel Craig, James Bond. He had to sleep on park benches. So perhaps selfishly on my end, I was hoping to produce a success story. From this day forward, I will not give up on homeless people, but I will certainly rethink my involvement with them. I'll always have a buck or two in my pocket to hand out, and perhaps I'll be more knowledgeable or have more situational awareness in how to point them to systems already in place that are supposed to help with homelessness. To take a personal responsibility like that again, I just don't know. There are all sorts of signs he was giving me and things that didn't add up, things he was saying, and he was obviously lying to me and lying to himself, and I keep looking back to God and asking, what's the lesson? And I think he's saying, now you know how I feel. So on our second chance encounter, it was at Barnes & Noble when he was by himself and estranged from his lady and his son, and I went back and picked up this book called Unfuck Yourself. He was already carrying around some sort of religious book, and I thought, well, if anybody I know personally that needs to be unfucked, it's Maurice right now. The book is thin, and I even got him a highlighter, and that's how I like to read, and I inscribed the following to him. I imagine sending him off to his new life, and things get better, and we keep in touch, and the things I've done make a difference. So here's what I wrote in the book that I never got to give him. Dear Maurice, here are some things that I absolutely know to be true. You must create the man that you admire and never step out of that character. Your conscience is the authentic voice of God. You must be still in order to hear it because it's quiet. The more you become interested in God, the more interested He'll become in you. And never forget that a father is a provider. Good luck to you, your friend, Scott Turner, with my phone number below. Anyway, I do wish him luck, and I did mention that on the phone call at some point before I lost my cool with him, and I do regret yelling at him. And that's a lesson I'll try to remember, is to try to keep cool. You guys be cool. Be yourselves. Everyone else is taken. I got to go be Scott Turner. Do not waste this day till we meet again.